Going into game 3, the world champion finds himself a point down against Yan Nepomniatchtchi. Well, in game 1, he was taken aback by the Russian as Nepo came with a good preparation, taking on e4, which Ambir didn't, but now Carlsen again with white pieces. Does he go with Sicilian again? No, he ditches the opening and plays e4. Nepo knight f6 and then bishop f4, the London system. c5, no, the game transposes to a Benoni structure. As we run through the moves, it's like, as you can see in online games, it's not a classical game. Carlsen is totally getting away from the main lines that he plays in the classical games. Very, 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 very risky indeed. e4, just pushing his pawn. h3, just trying to stop this bishop g4 idea, or knight e4 or knight g4 for that matter. h5, so Nepo also pushing his kingside pawns. Bishop f4, so this bishop has come to f4, then it went to d2 and again it went to f4. So you may as well know the game of the century when the bishop moved and Fischer just pounced on that. The position is quite closed. You look at black pieces also haven't developed, only this knight has come out. Still you can afford to play these bishop moves. Now this bishop comes out to f5 and again we are going to crunch moment, this position where Carlsen again plays a backward knight's move in the opening, knight c1. So basically he's trying to put this knight here and try to take guard of this square, possibly some queenside initiative, since this pawn has run till here and these pawns, so this pawn, one pawn has freezed this pawn. So basically white's intention is to bring its pieces towards the queen side to create some play. Knight fd7, so if bishop takes, the idea is to take with the knight instead of the pawn, so that this pawn doesn't become a pass pawn, which often happens. Knight b3, just we saw the idea of this knight running here and then here, very ominous. Bishop g6, here he could have simply played g6 or g5 in this position to tuck this bishop, and only then putting his bishop and running this pawn down the board. Maybe a good idea, but it could create complications. This black king hasn't castled yet, still in the center of the board, so pushing kingside pawns too early could be a bit risky in this position. First, of course, you need to develop this bishop and only then you would be able to castle, but still position is quite complicated. In g6, knight d2, so this knight goes here, then here, then here, then here. So probably would be idea to look at this square not from here, from here, so that you can play f3 and try to exchange the pawns, so that this rook also comes into play and attacks the bishop and probably create more attacking chances on the king side. f5, so now Nepo starts to push his own king side pawns. f5, now the idea would be to sneak this bishop away and play g5 and then g4, g3 stuff. Well, we are far away from that. f3, the purpose of knight d2 move, just to take care of this pawn. ef3, gf3, so that this is now protected with two pieces. And now bishop h5. Well, this move was too premature in my opinion, but I can understand this. He wants to play g5 or g6 and develop this bishop this side, but still it would be quite risky because this rook is also here, so it can easily challenge the g file, the semi-open file. It's quite tricky still. Bishop h5, putting an eye on this pawn. So these two pieces are basically freezed. White would try to bring this bishop to these squares to defend this pawn. Let's see how he goes. Rook g1 as expected. Now stopping this g5 thing, but keeping an eye on g5 thing, not stopping, but still a g5 would be too weak, so bishop would go back and then we challenge this, and would be more pressure on the king side with king still in the center. Very tricky position indeed. Knight f7, so still eyeing g5. I think Nepo is in this position is totally concentrated on making the move g5, so that he can, if he gets a chance to play g5, then it would be very good for him. King side play and knight on f7 looks very good. It is protecting king on this diagonal, although not a threat right now, but it could be, because this king is still in the center and there is no pawn cover on the king side. Bishop e2, keeping more defender to this pawn. Now three pieces are defending this pawn. That's very good, very nice. Queen f6. So the idea is basically to castle, to put king here, but he could have played g6 or g5 in this position. Now I think that would have been a good time to strike. The whole plan of playing knight here and then create, not even castling yet, not even developed the bishop on g7. This still could have been easy played, but queen f6 just I think it's too slow. Well, okay, knight c4. So keeping an eye on this square. g6. Now g6 comes instead of g5. Would have been better if you had played g5 from here. g6 again. With g6 it means that this bishop has to do something to get out of here, because this bishop is also running a lot of very low on squares. Only g4 square is available, and even that is also taken by two pawns. Bishop h2, and now in this position he should have played bishop g7. And with Carlsen, you know, if you give him a sniff, I think he was basically worried about this pawn, this backward pawn. It's attacked by two squares, but is also defended by the two pieces as well. So although it's attacked by the two pieces, but it's also defended by the two pieces. So I think he shouldn't have been worried about bishop g7 in this position. Instead he plays knight e5. Now with this move, this square goes away, and if knight b6 comes, the rook has to move, so black won't be able to castle on queen side. With these pawns moved from king side, the king will stand shaky at the king side, so it would be very difficult. The king is in the middle of the board, hasn't castled yet, 20 moves down, still in the middle. Although white king is also in the middle, but still there are some pawns on the queen side, so white will castle on queen. White can castle on queen side, although his own king side pawns aren't too good, but still very good chance. So knight e5. I think this move was slow. Knight b6 just gives a sniff to Carlsen. This rook has to move. Rook d8, and now f4, challenging the knight. That knight isn't looking good here either. It was looking good if this pawn hadn't been here, but it's too early to play knight e5 in this position. Knight d7, knight goes back, and now bishop takes bishop. Probably a good move, but still rook takes bishop, which means that the king will forever stay in the middle, and it is very tricky. The rook is moved, so black king won't be able to castle. It's very difficult. Knight c4, knight's job is done. Bishop g7, okay, queen d3, good move. King f8, so king is running. He would be trying to go to h8, but it will still take 3-4 moves to get there. And now Carlsen castles queenside. As we see the pawn cover, and what does this king have? Bishop and knight only. You don't cover your king with minor pieces. Okay, you can cover with the bishop, but still you need f or h pawns in this position, but not to be. Rook e8, rook g2, good move. Just looking to come here and putting this rook as well, and maybe most importantly rooking at this pawn, so this rook also can come on g1 in as well. So two full threads. King g8, the king is running in the corner. e4, striking in the center. This was very good move. F takes, knight takes, queen e7. Now this knight is challenged twice, so rook defends. King goes in the corner, which gives up the pawn, so Nepo gives this pawn up. So very tricky position still. Knight f6, queen c3. Of course, if this is taken, then queen takes bishop is mate. So rook goes back. Queen f3, knight takes pawn. Okay, so he grabs his pawn back. And now f5. What a splendid move. Now what is going on basically here? This bishop is targeting, this knight is targeting this way. This is targeting this queen is directly in front of the rook. f5 also defends this rook as well. So very bad things coming up very quickly for Nepomniatchtchi. Knight f6, and now bishop takes pawn. Queen d8, king b1 just tucking to the side from these checks. This is to take place. This would be quite annoying. Probably rook would have come back and try to hassle this one, but not to be. Rook takes knight, rook takes, knight takes bishop, knight takes, queen takes, and now rook e6. So basically Nepo has a bishop and a knight for a rook, but still look at the position, look at the king's position. There aren't any pawns here. If there would have been f pawn, or this pawn would have been somewhere around here, then who knows, maybe black would still have chances. Also this queen does a good job of covering this d1 square for check, so there aren't no nonsense going on. This rook looks very ugly on h7. It should have been quite active, should have been here or here to try to challenge these, or try to challenge on the e5, but not to be. Queen f8, so this rook move pushes queen to defend, and now queen takes b7. More pressure on this bishop, and this bishop, look at this bishop, this ugly bishop. It cannot move, it has only one square to go. If it moves, then rook takes knight, although rook might challenge the queen, but it won't matter anyway. Knight goes back. Very ugly decisions have to be taken. Now queen e4, good move. Queen f7, rook e8. Now rook f6, challenging that rook, rook Rooks are exchanged, bishop takes h6, and now Carlsen knows that if he turns this game, there is no way that Nepo would be able to defend, and this pawn will go through. It's a hopeless position for Nepo. Let's see how Carlsen wraps this game up. c3, just making this rook free to go here so that this pawn won't be attacked. c4, fixing the pawn on c3. f6, challenging the knight. Knight goes. Rook takes, so this pawn is also threatened. Knight e5. Rook c7 check. King takes pawn, but it doesn't matter here. The pawn is too far away. Carlsen is exchanged up in this position, and after king a2, Nepo resigned, rightly so. Exchange up, pawn up. Don't see any hope of these two pawns and this knight as well. There would be an outright passed pawn. One of those will really go through, and this rook does a perfect job of cutting this king from this pawn. Fantastic game, fantastic comeback from Carlsen. It's very tough to come back after losing first game in that fashion. It takes guts, and you expect guts from world champion. It shows why he is. So after 3 games, it's 1 apiece. Nepomniatchtchi drew against Carlsen in game 4. I'll be coming back for the Armageddon game. Stay tuned.